It seems Russia is feeling an economic pinch as several of its key allies, including those in BRICS, begin to take a step back from trade with Russia. Now, this comes as the U.S. intensifies sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Countries that have historically been close to Russia, including China, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and India, are now treading more carefully in their dealings with Russia. Even fellow CSTO members are growing more cautious. They're wary of the potential repercussions of U.S. secondary sanctions. For instance, Russian companies are facing difficulties in making payments to China, as at least 9 Chinese banks have halted transactions from Russia, including when Russia offers to pay in yuan. This move comes after the U.S. imposed stricter sanctions aimed at entities facilitating banned transactions with Russia, and those entities fearing those secondary sanctions from the U.S. I spoke about earlier. Now, Russian businesses are exploring alternative banking solutions, including establishing accounts in China, Hong Kong, or other friendly countries, but U.S. watchdogs have increased scrutiny of such accounts and of such dealings. Chinese banks are progressively more cautious of losing access to the U.S. dollar, as well as technology crucial to many Chinese industries, and this is especially in the manufacturing technology industry, in which China's number one import is manufacturing tech, and the U.S. is its number one trade partner in that regard. Now, the U.S. has shown it's perfectly fine punishing China for violations of America's rules. The fear of Chinese companies facing U.S. sanctions due to their ties with Russia has led to a significant sell-off in Chinese stocks, and it is really a lose-lose situation here for China. You either lose customers in Russia or you lose customers in the U.S. Now, similar cautious steps are being taken by fellow CSTO countries, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, as they have stopped accepting cards from Russia's Mir payment system. So has Uzbekistan, and Turkey stopped using it in 2022. This system was supposed to be Moscow's answer to being removed from the SWIFT system and banned by global giants Visa and MasterCard. Samsung Pay has also been removed from Russian users as well. Furthermore, India, which was a significant buyer of Russian oil, has reportedly stopped its payments for Russia's premium crude oil. And it's not just India. Banks across China, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates are hesitating in their payments for various commodities because they're worried of U.S. sanctions, and this is leading to delays in trade between those countries for things like crude and fuel, and these delays are stretching several months. India is gradually recalibrating its strategic and defensive ties as well. It's shifted towards the West while cautiously maintaining a long-standing relationship with Russia so as not to disrupt maintenance agreements that were previously made on purchased Russian equipment. However, for India, the shift is largely driven by the fact that Russia doesn't have the capacity to deliver ammunition and spare parts due to its war with Ukraine. Therefore, India is diversifying, and these efforts include signing agreements with the United States to produce jet engines in India for its fighter jets, which is a significant step as it is the first such concession by the U.S. to a non-allied country. Over the past 2 decades, Russia has been the principal supplier of India's arms, accounting for 65% of its weapons purchases, totaling over $60 billion. However, recent developments suggest that there has been a notable pivot as India has not signed any new military deals with Russia since the war started and is unlikely to sign any major military deals with Russia in the near future because that would be crossing a red line for the United States. Instead, India and Japan have also agreed to step up security and economic cooperation, a move that is aimed at countering Chinese-Russia agreements. Again, fellow BRICS nations here. Now, the fact is Russia has leaned on these nations to help dodge the sanctions imposed by the U.S., but the path is narrowing as the U.S. Treasury Department has begun to take action after President Biden issued an executive order directed at those aiding Russia. This order is a direct threat to foreign banks that facilitate any kind of significant transaction for Russia, warning them that they would be potentially excluded from the U.S. financial system, which is devastating for many countries, as well as even if they assist in businesses supporting Russia's defense industry, they could be removed as well. The U.S. relies very little on China and India when it comes to their overarching economy. Only 3% of the U.S. economy relies on Chinese trade, and that number falls to less than 1% with India. But China still does 7 times more trade with the U.S. than Russia. In fact, Chinese trade with the U.S. grew by 46% since 2022, and this is according to the International Monetary Fund. In that same time period, Chinese trade with Russia fell by 6%. The U.S. is India's number one trading partner by over double what they do with Japan, who is the number 2 trading partner with India. Meanwhile, India is just the 7th largest trading partner to the US behind Taiwan. So the US has the leverage here and the ability to apply pain to China and India with really little impact to Americans. So the reports that countries are fearful of secondary sanctions from the US are very real. The Kremlin and even Putin himself have been forced to acknowledge these financial strains, but continue to adjust in order to maintain some semblance of normalcy for Russians, especially in Moscow and St. Petersburg. They had 8 years to prepare for such financial crunches, and it remains to be seen how long they can last as cracks are emerging in the dam here. One thing is for sure, both China and India value their trade relations with the US more than they do with Russia. But BRICS and stuff.